But we've been talking about some of the different plagues, and when we left off, which was 2 weeks ago, because of Thanksgiving, we left off where we're at frogs. We've just had frogs explode everywhere. They're taking over. They're gross. They are covering the land of Egypt. So it's in chapter 8 of Exodus, verse 8 is where we are. The Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, "Entreat the Lord that he may take away the frogs from me, from my people, and I will let the people go that they may do sacrifice unto the Lord." So I don't think he's agreeing to actually let them go yet. He's agreeing to let them go for their holiday, for their sacrifice, for their day off. Because he just says he's going to let them go to sacrifice unto the Lord. He doesn't say, like, get out of the kingdom. So do you all agree with that?
Yeah. I do.
Okay. Sweet. All right. Now, and Moses said unto Pharaoh, "Glory over me, when shall I entreat for thee, for thy servants and for thy people, to destroy the frogs from the houses and thy houses, that they may remain in the river only?" And he said, "Tomorrow." And he said, "Be it according to thy word, that thou mayest know there is none like unto the Lord our God. And the frogs shall depart from thee, and from thy houses, and from thy servants and thy people, and they shall remain in the river only." And Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moses cried unto the Lord because of the frogs which he had brought against Pharaoh. So does that mean he's like, I'm just kidding. And the Lord did according to the word of Moses, and the frogs died out of the houses, out of the villages, and out of the fields. And they gathered them together upon heaps, and the land stank. I can only imagine. The land stank like nasty, rotten, fishy frogs. I bet it was gross. What do you think, KJ? Nasty? Yeah.
Well, probably.
Mountains of dead frogs, just what I wanted.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's something I've always wanted to know. Why did Pharaoh say, "Let's do it tomorrow"? Why not right now?
I don't know. Good question. Maybe because it was like the middle of the day or something. I don't know. And he didn't want to stop their work for the day. I don't know. Because he's just agreeing to go on holiday. He's not agreeing to let them go yet. So I don't know. Good question though. I would probably say the same thing. Like, let's do this now. So
I'll do it tomorrow.
And so everything's stinky. But when the Pharaoh saw that there was respite, he hardened his heart and hearkened not unto them as the Lord had said. So he was a big fibber and he lied. And the Lord said unto Moses, "Say unto Aaron, stretch out thy rod and smite the dust of the land, that it may become lice throughout all of Egypt." Okay, dust is one thing, lice, ew. Like, ew. Especially, it's hot, it's stinky, and it smells like dead fishy frogs, and now everything's itchy and lice infested.
And all the Egyptians' kids are having to stay home because of the lice epidemic. They can't go to school.
Nobody can go to school. It's like
quarantine. And they have to take care of their kids. Ooh.
And they probably have to wear masks because, it's blowing like the dust. So, and the magicians, why must we compete with the lice factor? Don't know. And the magicians did so with their enchantments to bring forth life, because it's always a good idea to try to one up God, but they could not.
I think if I was Pharaoh, I'd be telling my guys to get rid of the lice, not double the number.
Like, y'all, come on.
These guys are not the brightest tacks in the box, are they?
No. And God's got super lice, like the kind you have to put mayonnaise on your hair to get rid of.
Oh yeah.
All right. Then the magician said unto Pharaoh, "This is the finger of God." And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he hearkened not unto them, the Lord had said. And the Lord said unto Moses, rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh. Lo, he cometh forth to the water, and say unto him, thus said the Lord, let my people go, that they may serve me. Else, if thou wilt not let my people go, I will send swarms of flies upon thee and upon thy servants and upon thy people and into thy houses, and the houses of the Egyptians shall be full of swarms of flies, and also the ground whereon they are. And I will sever in the day that the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell, that no swarm of flies shall there be to the end. Thou mayest know that I am the Lord thy God in the midst of the earth. And I will put a division between my people and thy people. Tomorrow shall this sign be. So I think this is really cool part, because it starts only affecting the Egyptians, which I feel really bad for the Israelites up until this point still, because I mean, they're not only slaves, it smells like dead frogs and they have lice, because I never put that into perspective, but here is where God draws the line, not a couple of verses ago. So that's interesting. I never put that into perspective. So the Lord did so, and there came a grievous swarm of flies into the house of Pharaoh and into his servants' houses and into all the land of Egypt. And the land was corrupted by reason of the swarm of flies. So in my mind, there was already a bunch of nasty flies because of the maggots and the dead frogs. So I can only imagine the massive swarm of flies that comes and descends to hang out with the lice and all the other flies. I mean, ew.
Yeah.
Right?
That's pretty bad.
I mean, this would be the time, when somebody was vacationing and showed up in Egypt and was like, let's go home. Because this is not okay. We didn't have, this is not okay. This is like when y'all took us to Florida when we were little, Dad, and it was really cold and all we had were shorts. But we're different, It's like when you're
This is not what it looked like on mine.
I know, that's why I said the lice, the flies that the flies descended upon, the extra lice from the magicians,
Excuse me, captain of the ship that just landed. I'm coming back on. What's the fee?
what time is the flight leave? Yeah,
Hey,
that's horrible.
since there were flies, there could have been some mosquitoes, since a mosquito is actually a type of fly.
Never know, man. That would have been even worse because then you'd have been getting bit, huh?
Well, certain types don't horse flies bite.
Yes. Ugh. This is just so gross, y'all. Every time I read this, I'm just like, ugh. And I would be visiting my new best friend, Marion the Israelite, down the road for a little bit of break on the whole situation. Let's see. Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, go ye sacrifice to your God in the land. So Pharaoh again is like, okay, take your people, go. This has got to stop. And Moses said, it is not meet so to do, for we shall sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians to the Lord our God. Lo, shall we sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians before their eyes, and will they not stone us? We will go 3 days' journey into the wilderness and sacrifice to the Lord our God as he shall command us. So before it was, let us have a day off, and Pharaoh refused. Then he said he would and fibbed about it, changed his mind. So now they want to go 3 days in to have their day off. I don't think they wanted 3. Did they want 3 days first? I thought it was just the day off. I don't know. Dad, do you know?
It's I think where you're getting that is that I think they did want 1 day to sacrifice, but it's going to take a day and a half or to go each direction. It's going to take 3 days to get there and back. He wants them to go to Sinai. And so it's going to take a day or day and a half to get there and back. And so it's going to be a minimum of 4 days. I mean,
Okay. Because the way that I read it and was understanding it is they are now asking for more. Because originally it was, can we have a day off? Moses said no, no, no. Or I mean, Pharaoh said no, no, no. And then when Pharaoh said yes, he changed his mind. So now in the negotiation, it sounds to me like the Israelites are asking for more because they want to go 3 days in. That means it's going to be additional time. That's how my mind is playing that. So it's wrong. It's
Okay.
still the additional. It's still the same. Oh, Logan said he doesn't know either. Oh well. I mean, does it matter? I don't know. I think it's part of the bartering process. Who knows? Let's see. And Pharaoh said, I will let you go that you may sacrifice to the Lord your God in the wilderness. Only you shall not go very far away. Entreat me. So, and Moses said, behold, I go out from thee, and I will entreat the Lord that the swarm of flies may depart from Pharaoh, from his servants and from his people tomorrow. But let not Pharaoh deal deceitfully anymore in not letting the people go to sacrifice to the Lord. And Moses went out from Pharaoh, entreated the Lord, and the Lord did according to the word of Moses, and he removed the swarm of flies from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people, and there remained not one. And Pharaoh hardened his heart at this time also, neither would he let the people go. So we are moving on to chapter 9. Does anybody have anything to say before we continue on?
If Pharaoh didn't change his mind again, and if they did, leave, well, I think they should have just gone like far away if Pharaoh didn't change his mind again.
Yeah.
Like betray Pharaoh.
Yeah. All right. So I was trying to look back. Maybe that may serve me in the wilderness. I just wanted to see. I don't know. Now I'm going to obsess over that day time frame, but it's okay. Who cares? All right. So chapter 9. The Lord said unto Moses, go in unto Pharaoh and tell him, thus saith the Lord God of Hebrews, let my people go, that they may serve me. For if thou refuse to let them go, and wilt hold them still, behold, the hand of the Lord is upon thy cattle, which is in the field, upon the horses, upon the asses, the camels, upon the oxen, the sheep. There shall be a very grievous murrain. Is murrain a cootie? What's murrain? M-U-R-R-A-I-N. There shall be a very grievous murrain. Anybody know what that means?
In mine, it says terrible plague.
Okay, so it's a cootie. They get COVID. And the Lord shall sever between the cattle of Israel and the cattle of Egypt, and there shall nothing die of all that is the children's of Israel. So they didn't have the flies, so now their stock is going to stay good, where the Egyptians is all going to die off. And considering too that they have a plague, I think that, it also goes into effect. That's a food source. They're not going to have any meat because they're not going to eat diseased meat because I saw Messina's little definition pop up and it said a very infectious disease. So to take that into account, if you eat the meat, I'm going to assume you're going to get sick as well. What do you guys think? Yeah.
Good idea. Good thought. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not only their
Wasn't
cattle.
it a couple of years ago that they were warning hunters about deer meat? There was something wrong with some of the wild deer.
Yeah.
They didn't want any to get sick.
Yeah. I remember that.
I think it might have been tuberculosis. I just can't remember for sure.
I don't know.
I mean, I learned a little bit about mad cow disease in one of my anthropological classes at school one year. And they couldn't figure out why the specific sets of people were getting sick with the mad cow disease. And it was because when the cow was killed and fed, the brain was the specialty, and that was specific. I think it was to the women, like the high women of the tribe. And what does a mom do? She shares with her child. So like all the moms and kids were getting mad cow disease, and they were getting specifically sick because they were eating that disease part, where other groups weren't getting sick because they weren't eating.
a brain.
A cow's brain.
Okay, a brain.
A
Do you have
cow's
any
brain.
input on that, Dad? Because since we're talking about illness,
Terrifying.
Sorry.
all right, you're fine. Do you have any input on that, Dad?
About the
Like illness?
cows.
Yeah, the spreading of the meat and the eating them.
Yeah, there are some diseases that don't jump from animals to humans, but there's a lot that do. And if you eat diseased meat, you
Yeah.
can get very sick. And, we don't see it today because we have government intervention. We have government that inspects meat and makes people, but until we had a larger government and everybody just made their own, people got sick from tuberculosis, brucellosis, a lot of the different kinds of illnesses that are carried by animals.
Okay.
Sicknesses that are carried by animals are called zoonotic diseases.
Zoonotic diseases, that's correct.
Boom. KJ, Smarty Pants Award for the day. Did you look at his mom's face? Look, KJ, my dad on here, he is a retired doctor, and he's impressed by you and
He is.
your
Yes, he
ability to use that word and define it correctly.
That is very
job.
impressive.
My
I
star
didn't know he knew that.
Christy's like,
There's probably a lot of things you don't know he knows.
yeah, you might. Wow. That was good. We should put that on a t-shirt for him. Something. Wow. I feel like you deserve an award. I'm like, all right. The things we find out KJ knows are very impressive. It's like when Joel climbed up the bathtub backwards tonight and proceeded to go, oh no, and dive into the bathtub. I mean, he was like holding on to the side and he back walked up the wall. And I was like, stop. And he was like, ah, and dove. And I was like, don't do that.
That's
And he
pretty
did it like
cool.
15 more times.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. But it's still not as impressive as KJ. Let's see. So the Lord did that thing on the morrow, and all the cattle of Egypt died, but of the cattle of the children of Israel died not one. And the Pharaoh sat, and behold, there was not one of the cattle of the Israelites dead. And the heart of the Pharaoh was hardened, and he did not let the people go. I can imagine this really made him mad. Just considering everything going on, I can see like why this would harden his heart, because this is the second thing that's happened and it's not affected the Israelites, and he knows it's his fault. And when we know something's our fault, we get mad. And I bet he's pretty peeved by now.
He's furious.
He is furious. You are
He's
correct.
filled with wrath.
Ooh, yeah. All right. So, and the Lord said unto Moses and unto Aaron, take to you handfuls of ashes of the furnace, and let Moses sprinkle it toward the heaven in the sight of Pharaoh. And it shall become small dust in all the land of Egypt. Ugh. and shall be a boil breaking forth with blains upon man, upon beast throughout all of the land of Egypt. Now, is a blain, BLAIN, is that like a boil? I'm gonna like a pustule.
Mine
Like-
says boils.
Okay. I mean, because it says, and shall be a boil breaking forth with blains. So I didn't understand, like,
A blain is an ancient old word for a big, hard, red knot, painful knot. So if you get something under your armpit, that's a big, hard, painful knot, but it's not in a head or anything like that. It's not, that would have been 100 years, 200 years ago called a blain.
strange. I've never heard that.
Yeah.
Okay. Logan just called you old, Dad. You're gonna have to come through and just beat him with your switch. We have 10 minutes left, so we're gonna go on just a little bit, and then I would say
It
before
says
we move on
here
to the next plague, we
that
talk
they
about.
believe it was either anthrax or some type of cowpox.
Who knows?
So I don't
That
know.
would go along with the sick cows.
Yeah, definitely. It would.
And anthrax is spread by wind, by dust.
Oh.
Anthrax spores are spread. That's why they put it, if you're trying to kill people with anthrax, you put it in envelopes, and when they open it, the breeze catches it and blows it everywhere. It goes in your lungs and goes all over you, and you get sick.
That's a very
I'm never going to
interesting
open the
fact,
mail the same again.
right? Well, I mean, remember how it was
Yes, you're
doing right
probably
after
gonna take it
9/11?
when we're-
I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, that's a very interesting though tie up to, you know what I mean? Like, and that just shows God knows each step and how each step links. You know what I mean? Like, and
He
how
really does.
and how yeah, that's what I get from that when you say that. It's like, okay, he says, take you handfuls of ashes to the furnace. Well, we know they just had the diseased cows. We know they just
Mhm.
had now they're getting like the boils and all that. So and the flies, maybe the flies contribute. So everything is linked together. God knows each individual step that's going to be taken, and he knows what he's got to
That-
do to perform. And
That's just amazing, because I mean, if all these cows dying and you got all these beasts, what do you naturally do with them? You take them to the furnace and you burn the bodies.
yeah,
And then they saying, take the ashes out of the furnace. That's going to be there could be infected parts left over of anthrax and stuff in there, and throw it into the wind. I mean, that's exactly how it's spread. That's just amazing, isn't it?
and it makes me think too with the animals getting diseased that come from the fly bites. Like KJ said, mosquitoes are flying.
Mhm.
They could be
Mhm.
biting each other, spreading that through the blood
Yeah.
transfusion or the spit of the bugs. That's all getting spread from the frogs and all the dead junk laying around. And so I
It
mean,
just
maybe
follows. That is just
Yeah.
impressive. That
It
is
is.
just really. You could do a whole medical lecture on these chapters.
I bet you could.
You could.
Yeah.
The thing that really gets me is, the magicians were still able to reproduce what God was doing, right?
Mhm.
But if we look through it, we're looking at it today through this lens and through the science and medical lens, we see how each one's connected.
Mhm.
But can you imagine being in the mindset of not knowing that those things are connected?
Mhm.
Like, no wonder they believed that it was magicians. No wonder they believed it could be reproduced, and it really wasn't God.
Yeah. I also think too, like, I think it's impressive how God allowed the magicians to help it along. You know what I mean? Like, he was like, okay, and it all starts with this. And like, he allows them to help it along to make it a little bit worse. You know what I mean? But they couldn't turn the water back from blood. They couldn't turn it back. They can only help it forward, but they can't. bring
They
it back.
can't be the remedy.
Yeah.
What is absolutely amazing is that once it gets to a certain point, the Israelites remain untouched by it. After it gets to that point, they are and that's not possible. Once you have all these things set up, everybody in that area that comes into that area is going to get sick.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
just the way it is, especially
Wow.
something that's highly contagious. You don't have this person will not get sick because they are of this group of people, while this other group of people stay sick. That
What
just
that
doesn't
makes-
work.
What that makes me think of though is their different lifestyle, because they're not going to eat the same type of meat the Egyptians are, because remember they have
Mhm.
special diets. They're
Mhm.
not, well, but they cook their food differently. They live differently. The Egyptians, the Israelites are different from them. Like they already like live differently. Am I wrong? I mean, they may not have those strict like don't eat a pig or whatever rules, but just their housekeeping and stuff could be different. You know what I mean? Like from,
Yeah.
Even the way they breathe can be different.
I mean,
But in working for the Egyptians and going into the Egyptian territory to work, for some of them, they would have brought it back to the village. Do you know
But
what I mean?
yeah, but like, isn't it like what it makes me think of honestly is like, am I wrong, Dad, with like sickle cell anemia only affects certain races of people? Correct? I don't want to be like prejudiced. And So-
That is a genetic disease, yes,
Correct.
but
So how
certainly
do you know that this type of whatever is not like a genetically, I don't know.
I tend to think that a lot of it, I mean, there is no doubt that God is protecting them. There's no doubt
Absolutely.
that God protects them and that this is a miracle,
Right.
But I think you're onto something really important there, Becky, that if God's people listen to God's way, they tend to be separate from the world.
Right.
They tend to not involve themselves in the activities of the world or the foods of the world or the things of the world.
Right.
And they tend to quarantine themselves from the diseases of the world. I mean, they do. I mean, that's what God's people usually do. And I think, when you see that, then God says, I'm blessing you. I'm protecting you.
Yeah.
And yeah, even though they were working as slaves and stuff, it was more in that situation. It's more like, they were building the pyramids and the tombs and those things. So they weren't in the cities. They were, and the number of Egyptians was probably small compared to the number of them. The Egyptians were coming into their workspace, not the other way around. So
That makes sense.
I think you're kind of right about that. There is some kind of protection based on their already being God followers.
Yeah. I don't know. And the only reason I even think that is because of the steps. Like
3 minutes
It's-
left.
it's 3 minutes left. Okay. And the way that it places that in my mind is because of the steps. Like each plague linking to another and being able to help it cause. I mean, it could go all the way down to, the Egyptians drink the river from the Nile, but the Israelites, they are in a separate part of the city. They drink the water from the well. You know what I mean? Like it could, to me, so that, and hey, if we were them, we'd be like, we're blessed, just like, we're blessed in other things and we know it's all part of God's plan. So they would somehow have some type of difference that keeps them blessed according to God's plan.
And remember, that's exactly what God told them in the desert. We'll see in Exodus, Deuteronomy. And if you do the things I tell you to do and act the way I tell you to act, none of the diseases that affect the Egyptians are going to affect you.
Yeah.
That's just a promise that if you practice a certain lifestyle, you're not going to get those diseases.
Which
And they don't get those diseases. You don't get those diseases if you live a clean lifestyle like what they do. And that's a public health statement. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that does, and you know what, that kind of like, I mean, that like puts into my mind, like, STDs, I'm going to abbreviate it, STDs,
Yes.
things like that. If you don't live that promiscuous lifestyle, you know what I'm saying? Like you're
That's
not exposed
correct.
to that because you're
You won't
saving
get all those
yourself.
diseases. You just
You know what
won't.
I mean? Yeah.
You won't.
That's really, I don't know. It's definitely, that's why I love this Bible study. Love it. Because I didn't really ever, you know what I mean? I don't think of all that stuff like when I'm reading it. Yeah. Yep. All right, guys. I think we're going to run out of time. Oh, we have less than a minute. I love you all. I hope you have an amazing night. Mwah! I want to see you next week. I've
Bye.
missed you.
Bye.
Bye, Smart KJ. Bye. Bye, Smarty.
Bye, Zoonotic Master.
Zoe.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.